Hello and welcome back. So we're going to get straight into this. If you want to skip straight to the Corrosive and Blast build, that is at 11:17. And there's also a build for Corrosive and Heat. This does require a Riven. You don't have to have 2 green shards, but it very, very much does help. So that's where it is. If you just want to copy and paste the Corrosive Blast 11:17 along with Corrosive and Heat. And I have variants for each over there. I also, for those of you who didn't skip, I found out, I did not need to have Pistol Pestilence on. Yeah, I didn't need it. And, yeah, I didn't need it. I really didn't. But I find that out at like 10 something, like 10:26 or 46. So without a lot of crit, like just 25% chance crit, and the things that I do to these Void Angels and, well, the Corrupted Heavy Goons, that just makes it more impressive. Blast is insane. So, the first part, it's just the Burglass nuking thing. Nothing really too fancy or, impressive, but I was correct, though. I was correct that Heat was going to get an indirect buff, as you see here. Heat did get an indirect buff, so that was pure Heat. And as you can tell, I did farm it quite a lot, but, I mean, this is the first genuine gun that I was actually interested in, right? The first genuine gun. So that's why it's farming so much, because I fucked up a lot. Now, this Blast, pure Blast, okay? It's all Steel Path, Corrupted Heavy Goons. And she only has 1 green Tau Forge shard, by the way, which is not going to affect this very much. But as you can tell, it is doing some damage. And then, once you get that ramp up going, which it's a little bit slow at first, but the fact that it's actually viable, just by itself, just in pure fire rate and multi-shot, because you guys know the Twin Groks just, well, they're really not that strong without a Riven. But look at that. Pure Blast. Just Blast. No armor strip. None of that. And it's actually missing the extra damage from not having impact because of that Riven. And here, I believe I'm going to switch out for Pistol Pestilence, yes, to put on her. I'll need to change that later. She's my leveling, my leveling frame. But you'll really get to see here. You'll really get to see. I am very impressed with what Blast is capable of. And now, a pure Heat build, as you saw, it is viable. Pure Heat is absolutely viable. But what you're going to see that the Corrosive in Heat does, it's even better than it was. But I'm so glad that I was right. Because I hypothesized that Heat was going to get an indirect buff because of how they were going to change the values of, armor strip and how effective it is. And now this, I kind of did a little fucky-wucky. This is Corrosive and Blast, but the build actually gets showed afterward. And I was so happy. I was worried, right, that they wouldn't have it to where it resets the amount of stacks on Blast after you get to 10. I thought it was just going to be, oh, you can only have 1 explosion, per target or whatever. I was so worried about how Blast was going to go. But Pablo cooked, and my gosh, he cooked a banquet. This is Corrosive and Blast. Now, Volt has, he has 2. He has 2 Tau Forge greens. And Gara only had 1. Now, this is something right here. This is something. Yeah. I was very impressed with that. I was very impressed. And mind you, that's without the crit chance. That's without the crit chance. Or no, yeah, that's without crit damage. Right? And now we're trying Corrosive and Cold, which is also very good. Yeah, it was actually pretty good, and it was coming up to be quite useful indeed. But now I've lost a bit of fire rate, which is fine, because of that. Corrosive and cold, baby. Very useful. Very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah. But the initial Corrosive and Blast that I had on there for a bit, that is good. That is good. But the final product at 1117 and its variants, I feel are more comfortable. Because before I had it, right, I had it without crit chance. And it was good. It was good. But I think sacrificing reload speed to get the most amount of damage, what I do later on, that probably is going to do the most, even though you are stuck with a 3-second thing. Because see, with this, yeah, with that right there, that Corrosive and Blast is nice. And what I'm doing here is I am putting velocity to make up for the fact that I no longer have Lethal Torrent on. And man, oh man, does it make a difference. And this is probably the build that I would run, just because I don't want to be stuck with conjunction or conjunctive voltage, whatever that arcane is called. And I don't want to keep having to spam my super speed, right? And this is probably what I would use, like on the daily, for comfort. Because you don't have to worry about, trying to fix reload speed with other things or using a specific frame. Honestly, this is a standalone build. You don't need Volt. I just run him, because he just does everything. But that is why I went through and did all of these different variations. I even go with magnetic and gas. Yeah, magnetic and gas. I do that. Which I think I'm actually getting closer. This is magnetic and toxin right here. I was genuinely impressed by how good magnetic and toxin can be, just straight up against armor. But yeah, I'm making all these different variations because I know that we have a bunch of different warframes, so reload speed won't be an issue on some, or with Horror, you can essentially always have red crit, right? So that's why I have this here, that you don't need crit chance, just crit damage. And secondary cucumber with shot is kinda necessary, because like I said, it's just missing a lot of base damage. But as you can see, this is quite impressive here. But as I was saying, I really wanted to try and make certain to make a build. But not just a build that anybody could use for any instance, and the twin Grakatas provide, as you can tell. I mean, it is nasty. And see how I switched up here? I didn't need to have that pistol pestilence, but I could have actually replaced it with crit chance if I wanted to. And it just melts. This is Corrosive and Blast right here, right? Full stacks, mind you. Keep that in mind. Full stack of Galvanized Chamber and Shot. And through the shield. Without the shield, I'm still doing about as much damage. That is Corrosive and Blast. That is Corrosive and Blast, ladies and gentlemen. And then I switched it off to make it, what was it, Corrosive and Heat? That's right, yeah, Corrosive and Heat. Just to give a comparison. This time I did take off the shield. I kind of forgot that I had it on. I should have taken it off with Corrosive and Blast, but, I mean, without that, like, the shield does help, but not that much. I mean, look at that. The first few shots were a lot better. And now just pure corrosive. But, like I said, I wanted to make a wide variety of builds, so that way you guys could see. You guys could really just try it out for yourselves, play around with the Groks. You can do all sorts of stuff. I have magnetic toxin, I believe, magnetic and gas, I think. Just corrosive and heat, corrosive blast. They're do-it-alls. They are do-it-alls. I did have to former for pure heat and pure blast, but all of the rest of these, after like the initial 2 tests, were all without having to change it. And as I said, it's all self-contained. Granted, it does, unfortunately, if you really want to get the most out of it, use up 2 warframe slots. It does. But other than that, it's completely non-invasive. Everything it is doing is because of the Riven, its own arcane, and the mods shown here. And it just does not quit. It does not quit. I was so impressed by the magnetic intoxin, after the ramp-up, of course. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I purposely try to build weapons so that way they are self-contained. So that way you don't have to use your warframe and your melee weapon and your primary just to build up a secondary. Or do all of that, but just for your primary. You know, I don't want to build my entire loadout just on, you know, to hinge it all on one weapon. That's not fun. I don't understand it myself. I don't know why people like to do that. But here we see, like, that other blast build. No reload speed, but maximum damage. God. That is... that is juicy. And also the reason I'm not really talking too much about these builds is because you can see it right here. It's just super easy, copy and paste, and you're done. That's it. There's no real explanation other than the fact that the reason that any of these work in the first place is because just how much multi-shot and fire rate these puppies can pour out. So even just at 50 or, hell, even 20 or 30% status chance, which this current build we're on now has 39.6. Even just with that, there were so many shots that, yeah, it's only about 39, but you're firing a stupid amount of ammunition at a stupid rate. So no matter how low it is, as long as it's not like 1 or 10%, you're going to get procs. Guaranteed. Every time. And lots of them. But other than that, I mean, there's really no other mechanics. There's no need for a bunch of explanation. And this, by the way, the conjunction voltage, the main reason I have that is to tackle the reload speed issue and show that you can have conjunctive voltage and not really lose all that much damage because you're getting multi-shot. And I believe crit damage from the arcane. I'll have to look at it again, but the true need is galvanized shot. So you don't need to also turn it into a DPS primer. You can have conjunctive voltage and be just fine. And as you can see, rip everything apart without issue. But I like to have secondary cucumber on because it does also double as a primer. And as I said, I'll probably be running that other build that has prime quick draw as opposed to prime heated charge, just for personal preference. Which is why I have all of these builds, so that way anybody and any element they enjoy and they just want to run around with all the time can use this. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, that's enough talking for me. And that has been the twin Grakatas of 2024.